Chapter 3. They had arrived at Santon at 8:30 on a Thursday night, and after tea on the Saturday Joan walked up to the little Coast Guard station on the hill. Aeroplanes were not unknown on that wide uplifted promontory, and it would not in the least surprise her if presently, say in another week or so, Chummy, finding himself within a mere 50 miles, were to drop in unannounced. He had in fact said so, in the last letter but for. He had not been able to see her off at the station because he had had a new machine to take up with a fellow she didn't know. On Friday he was chasing off to the Midlands, where he might have to stay the night, and he did not expect to be back in London till Saturday afternoon. So he would not be within 50 miles, and even if a plane did happen to pass over it could not possibly be his. As a matter of fact, a plane did happen to pass over, and she pretended that it was his. She stood watching, eyes shaded with her hand, lips smiling and parted, and the young throat long as the flower trumpet at the pit of which lies the nectar. Though she had been in a plane, and trusted me not to tell, I don't think that in her heart she regarded aeroplanes as apparatus at all. They were not things of wood and steel and oil and petrol that carried a load as a motor car might have carried a load. All was the particular skill and daring and unaided cleverness of that chummy of hers. I suppose he simply thought of her and flew. But her little pretense ended in a light sigh when the plane did not circle, but with unfeeling purposefulness followed the telegraph wire over the wolds and was lost to her sight. The young chauffeur of the air, whoever he was, knew nothing of the kiss that went after him. She returned to the cottage and the letter case and began 7. She knew nothing of the letter that Molly Estelle had already received from Philip, fortunately during her absence with the children. Nor did she know that Molly, still in her absence, had run immediately to the shop, post office and had telegraphed wire fullest particulars immediately most anxious. Chummy, Philip had written, had had a slight accident, nothing serious, but enough to keep him in bed for a few days. It would be better, his letter had continued, if this could be kept from Joan until she, Molly, heard further from him. If Molly could also glance through the newspapers before Joan got hold of them, that also Philip recommended. For the rest, he had said nothing whatever about when he himself might be expected at Santon, and Molly further wondered whether it was to create a reassuring impression that he had passed on to tell her how he was having old Dadley round about some picture framing, and ended with similar trivial matters. That letter had come on the Friday afternoon. Saturday had brought neither letter nor reply to her telegram. She was glad that there was a Sunday delivery at Santon, which usually awaited them on their return from church. I may say now, by the way, that Philip's caution about the newspapers was needless. The paper that found its way to Santon about midday was a London paper, but a northern edition. Minor accidents in Chelsea are seen in perspective from the north, and no account of that Chelsea accident ever did appear. Only Joan and the children went to church on that Sunday morning. Molly made some excuse about helping the village girl to prepare the midday meal. Perhaps she preferred not to read letters and have her own face read by Joan at the same time. In the summer, when the door of that diminutive church usually stands wide open all through the service, you can see from the back pews the postman pass on his way to Newsom's, the farthest farm. So there in church Joan sat, watching the bees that droned in and out of the open door, the butterflies that hovered, the cattle that tried to crop inside the little wire fence. The whiteness of the daisies was faintly shut up among the old rafters, and the curate's sing-song rose and fell peacefully. The postman passed with the Newsom letters, and repassed with his empty bag. Then the sluggish old harmonium droned forth the last hymn, they knelt for the benediction, and Joan and her charges were the first to hurry forth out into the sunshine again. And this time there was a letter for her. But her brows were already contracted even before she opened it. She stood, in the white frock and buttercupped hat, against the musk and geraniums of the sunny window, already wondering what the quite strange handwriting of the envelope meant, already half afraid to ascertain. "Is this all?" she began. Then with a nervous jerk she tore open the envelope, and a cry broke from her. The blue eyes were wide frightened rounds. For if the handwriting on the envelope was strange, that of the shaky penciled scrawl inside was not quite familiar either. Yet it was Chummy's. He had had a bit of a spill, he said, but nothing to hurt. Rather shaken, but nothing broken. She was not to come up, as he would be out and up again before she could get there. And that was all. There was no address at the head of the letter, and he did not say who had addressed the envelope for him, nor why. "Oh, Molly, he's hurt," broke agitatedly from Joan. Molly was writing a letter at the little round table where the workbasket stood. Quietly she rose and passed her arm about the girl. "Yes, darling, but he's quite all right," she calmed her. "Have you heard from Philip, then? What is it? What does he say?" The words came with a rush. Molly had not heard from Philip that morning. That was why she was writing her letter. But she said she had heard from him. She meant the letter she had received on Friday afternoon. And somebody's had to write the address for him. Joan's voice became more unsteady still. Oh, that means he's badly hurt. I must go at once. Nonsense, dear. Anyway, there are no trains on Sunday. May I see what he says, or? Joan thrust the weak scribble into her hand. She read it, passed it back, and then began to unpin Joan's hat. Well, that's nothing to be alarmed about, she said. He says just the same as Philip. And he tells you you're not to go up. We shall hear all about it tomorrow. But she did not tell Joan that it was precisely because there was so maddeningly little in the letter she had received from Philip on Friday that, despairing of getting anything plain out of a mere man, the letter she was now writing was to Audrey Cunningham.